Aloha no kako, and that means in Hawaiian, greetings to you all. I just wanted to say mahalo nui again for tuning into another episode on my podcast. I had the opportunity to speak at a burial conference on the island of Maui to share my experience of saving our burial cave. And for many people who don't know about what I do, talking about our ancestors and our burial sites is a passion of mine. It's something that I was brought up in doing, so it's a part of me. And the knowledge that was shared with me over the years of learning from our kupuna and my kumus has taught me to appreciate who I am as a Hawaiian and appreciate our ancestors who came before us. And the things that I learned from them, I did not want that to go to waste. And they were sharing these stories with me because they wanted me to share it with others. And one of the aunties approached me to speak at a school on the island of Maui. And she said, Keoni, why not tomorrow come with us? And you can just share your mana'o to a school and share your thoughts with the kids and the things that you learned. And maybe they can get something out of it. Over the years, I spoke at public schools, private schools, charter schools. But when I went to Maui, I was given the opportunity to share my mana'o with the students there. And it was at Lahaina Luna School. And if you don't know where Lahaina Luna is, it's on Maui. And that school is the only school throughout the state of Hawaii that have their whole alma mater in Olelo, Hawaii, or in the Hawaiian language. Anytime anybody offers me to teach about our kupuna or our ancestors, I have to do it. That is just something that I grew up with. That is something that I've learned, all my life pretty much. And I've been taught by many kupuna who are not here anymore. Many of our Hawaiian elders that are here and even leaders that are still here that have shared with me their mana'o about Hawaiian burial sites and the importance about it. And even not about Hawaiian burial sites, about being Hawaiian, period. One thing that I share with the students is I don't have a format that I use that I'm going to say this. The experiences that I share to everyone is the experiences that I went through. Everybody can learn from textbooks and things, but coming from a true personal experience, that says more than any textbook. And what I wanted to share with them was that at a very young age, my family has discovered a Hawaiian burial cave in the forest. And for many years, without people knowing and whatnot, we protected that. Our family took on that responsibility of protecting that. That stuck with me from childhood all up until this day. But I knew at a young age it was something special and it wasn't for everybody. And that's what I wanted to share with the students that I was teaching at Lahaina Luna. And for many years, we protected that cave from desecration. Hawaiian burials can be found on every part of this island, from the mountains to the ocean. Hawaiians buried in the ground, they buried in caves, in sand. So with that in mind, I wanted to let them know that if they do stumble across our Hawaiian burials, the first thing that I urged them was that they needed to call the police right away. Calling the police is to make sure that the site is documented. And usually the State Historic Preservation would get involved, and then the Island Burial Council. So this process would actually start a paper trail. And the paper trail is good because sometimes you're going to find out during this process is that there's poor record keeping. So we as descendants of these burials, we need to keep track and keep good record keeping so that if there's any kind of issue that arises, at least we'll have the documents to back it up. Another thing that I encourage the students was to go out in their community, find our elders, our kupuna, and also practitioners who are knowledgeable about burials. Because what they can do is they can actually give you guidance of other people whom it can help. Like myself, we stumbled upon this cave. We were not looking for it. It just became our responsibility when we knew what it was. So I told the students that if they are in this situation, and no one steps forward, say for instance, you went out and you did try and seek help, and the elders and even the Island Burial Council says that, there's no connection of any family stepping forward, then it's like me, you step forward. You make the effort to ensure our ancestors are protected. And this is something that you shouldn't feel pressured or obligated to do. You should want to do it with aloha. When you're going into a classroom, these students are listening to you because of your experience and what can you help them with. And majority of them were Hawaiian, so I know we have some sort of connection. And some sort of connection is, it might not be burials because maybe that's not their thing. But they know what a forest is. They know what an ocean is. And they know what family is. And these things that we can hold very special. That I knew that I could teach them something that was special to me. And that thing was about burials and our ancestors. And why is it special? It's because it shows respect for things that was there before us. Protecting our ancestors or protecting historical sites like this, you shouldn't be scared of it. Especially if you know that your intention is to protect and not to desecrate. Desecration comes in many forms. People today are selling our bones of our iwi kupuna or our ancestors. And we've seen this on eBay. And sometimes people are selling our bones and our artifacts in the black market to museums or private collections. And sometimes it's not only on the black market, but it's in our government as well. I seen the State Historic Preservation approve projects which they know it's a historical site and there is a high chance of having burials there, and they allow the developer to go ahead and bulldoze. And after the site has been desecrated, the bones are removed, and sometimes they'll be put into storage containers on the job site. And if not on the job site, they'll collect the bones, put them in a paper bag or in a cardboard box, and then they'll store them on their shelves. That's the reality that I wanted them to know. They are digging up our ancestors. Who are we to desecrate or second guess the burials where they rest? It's not up to anybody to disturb that. No one. But if you're going to protect something of whatever it is, you're going to have to be dedicated to it. You're going to have to enjoy what you're doing, have passion about it, believe in yourself, and you can make things happen. What you need is the drive in yourself to continue to push forward in what you believe in. Protecting our burials is not a short-term thing, and I wanted to make that clear. And it's a long commitment. Sometimes to save something like this or something historic like this can take up to 5 to 20 years just to save it. But the malama part is lifelong. And you continue to do that until you make, until you pass away or hala. I have been going to meetings after meetings for years and years of giving my mana'o, giving my voice when there is a certain decision that needs to be made. And that's what we are. We are speaking for our kupuna because they are not able to speak. We are representing them as ohana. And if you have taken on that kuleana, that responsibility, and you hanai them you adopt them as your own, then you have to speak up for them. That is part of the commitment that you're doing for our ancestors and how serious it is. Because you are protecting them. But the key thing about it is it's not going to be instant gratification, or it's not going to be instant. Today we live in an instant world where everybody just wants to look up something online and they can find anything online. You can start your fundraiser, you can start your campaign online to save something. This kind of work is beyond that. It's real time. And that's what I wanted to share with the students that I was teaching at Lahaina Luna. And something, I enjoyed it so much teaching those kids, because I believe that before I even step into a classroom, if you're going to teach kids, whether you're going to be a kumu or teacher or an opio, a student, you better make sure that you're going to prepare yourself before you teach the class. Because their teacher is trusting you as a substitute to go in there and share your mana'o. And make sure that you're going to be sharing something with them that you prepared or know about. For me, over 25 years, I've been preparing. I've been practicing. I'm not going to share everything with them. I'll share them the basics of what I know, what I've been taught. Even though I know a lot more, but it's up to them to decide, for them to go and do the research if they're interested, or if the kahea went out to them. When I'm sharing these kind of things, it's a deep, deep, personal thing that I'm sharing with everyone. Protecting our burials is a kapu thing. It's a sacred thing. It's a personal thing. It's a hidden thing. That's what I wanted them to understand. That our burials are kapu. You don't touch that. You don't move that. You don't desecrate that. Our kupuna didn't ask to be moved. They didn't give you that item to have. Anything that's with that burial belongs with that burial. And it's not up to anyone to take that and disturb that in any kind of way. For people who don't know about this practice, might say, oh, well, you're sharing too much. Well, because they're not practicing it hands-on. If you know about practicing hands-on, you would know that I'm only scratching the surface of my teachings. We can share what we know, because the practice is totally different of what we share. Because when you go into a burial site and you're going to do protocol and it's just you and your ancestors, there's a lot that goes around that's beyond sharing or beyond textbooks. If you're going to choose to do this kind of thing, then you're going to learn to experience that. And that's part of the tradition. So there is a difference between sharing and tradition. Tradition would be hands-on. And for the students, they're only being taught. I'm not passing on the tradition yet. Because I went into our burial cave and I malama that, I know not to take anything from that place. Nor touch it, nor move it, nor see it. You respect it. And I'm going to give you an example of that. Just recently, I kind of was feeling that because I've been taking care of our burial cave and I saved it, and and it's our family's burial cave. But I came to a point that, because I don't have keiki, I don't have kids, I was wondering, who am I going to pass it on to? My cousins, or who's going to take on this responsibility? Long story short, my brother and his wife and their 2 keiki came, and they came to help us, aloha aina, clean the yard. And I looked at my brother and I said, you know what? How's about we go visit our Iwi Kupuna in the cave? Without hesitation, my brother said, we go. I wanted to teach my nephew and I wanted to teach my niece of what I learned about our ancestors. Because I want to share with them what we have and what we've been protecting. So we got together and we went into the burial cave slowly, one by one. And my brother hasn't been in there since the first time that we went in there, so he barely remembers it. But when we went in, the awe of all of their faces, of what they could see that I'm protecting for our family and protecting for the Hawaiian culture. They were very amazed at what my whole thing is all about. And you never will understand that until you are protecting our Iwi Kupuna and how special it is to protect something like that. My nephew and niece asked questions from when we got in all the way till we came out about our ancestors and who's buried there. And I had to teach them to respect this place. And this is our kupuna. They are here. These are people who was here long before anybody came here. And they're very special. And they're very special because we know about this place and we've been protecting this place. The hugest payoff was to save the burial cave, but the biggest payoff was to pass on that tradition. My nephew and niece was 8 and 7 years old. For me, saving the burial cave was a victory. But the biggest triumph of this whole journey was that I really was passing on the tradition to my nephew and my niece. I don't have to go to a charter school. I don't have to go to Kamehameha school to pass on this tradition. That experience that I gave them to go in there as a ohana and for them to see that was the exact same feeling I felt when I was 8 years old and just as young as them. And they'll never forget that experience with me, uncle, teaching them and being with their mom and dad. And one thing too is my sister-in-law can have, she has sense. Sense meaning like she can feel things. I can feel things, when things are going on. It was interesting that my sister-in-law could sense that place is a unique place. And it's very special, and it's not your everyone is just going to go in there. But as us as ohana, we're more than welcome at that place. The interesting part about it is that when we left that place, our job wasn't done yet. And I knew that too. You get this feeling, and it's because I know this land and I know the burial cave. I know that when things are not in full protocol and you have to do it, it's really not a question. It's just you have to. And because that place is not to just maha oe. So we all made leis and we had to give our whole kupu. And that was closing of that. It's part of respecting something that even if you don't believe in it, you still have to respect what the intention of that place was meant for. So back to the kids that I was teaching. Anytime I teach a class, I want to make sure that the students will go home with something or go throughout their life with something. Just knowing that our burials are kapu, are sacred. Everything that I'm teaching them and sharing with my students, I'm sharing with them ancestral knowledge. And it's just not a saying, it's not just a myth, it's a fact that our burials are sacred to the Hawaiian people and have been sacred for over 2,000 years. We have to continue to uphold what our tradition is, and that is to keep our Hawaiian burial sites kapu and sacred.